an actress. I don't really know her, but I think her name is Margaret Mensah Avala, and she's saying that she dropped out of school because she had a baby. This morning when I was coming, it dawned on me to say something about parents and our children and what sort of conversation to have with them with relation to, this is PG, with relation to sex and contraceptives. And because I also saw a news item where a one-day-old baby had been dropped in a trash can, and so they picked the baby out, and another woman begged for the baby to be given to her. Again, they say that one man's poison is another man's meat. And so please, a lot of these things are happening. Again, this morning I was talking to someone who said to me that his parents didn't try for him at all. They didn't plan for him. They just gave birth to him, and for that matter, he's really struggling. And the actress is also saying the same thing about having a child when she was in level 100, dropped out of school. So please, let's discuss these things with our children. I know when I was in level 100, I also got knocked up and had the baby as well. But at that point, can you imagine at level 100 and I didn't even know anything about contraceptives. I didn't even know anything about morning and after pills. Let's have this honest conversation with our children. Let's prepare them for the world. Let's talk obviously about abstinence, but if they cannot, then they should also know that there are options, because we can't follow them around all the time. Anyways, this is just my peace of mind this morning. Eric, why are you laughing?
No.
But it's the truth. It's something that we really need to take a look at.
Oh, no, I'm not. It's not about that. It's about this Agrada business.
Oh.
Agrada, or whatever they call her.
Yes.
I think the police must just go ahead and not be swayed. I've watched a video of somebody holding a press conference and crying, and people asking whether they staged this to get the numbers they brag with on social media. If indeed the charges slapped against her is true, or are true, she must be punished. Look, I can commit a crime, I can kill you, and tomorrow I'll pretend to be a pastor. I'm sure you understand the word confident tricksters.
Yes.
That's what I see.
That's what I see.
That is what I see, and nobody should sympathize. And I'm even wondering why people show interest in some of these things. If we snub them, I think society will be cleansed in terms of moral issues, because most of the time people who do the wrong things appear to be winning the hearts of people in town, and they take delight in just sharing them. You are just wasting your data. If you are interested in sharing and watching these useless videos, my opinion is you are wasting your data. Let's not entertain them, and let's not give them space in society. If your
Schwarzenegger apparently has also been arrested, and she's on a 500,000 Ghana cedi bill.
They should continue arresting them. See, people have been arrested for all forms of crime. They go to court. The state pretends to be responsible, and the state takes 2-3 years, and they go back, withdraw the charges, file fresh ones, go back to court, waste time, and at the end of the day, we just don't hear anything. They just fizzle out. Look at 2018. Look at all the cases of crime. Thugs attacking institutions, attacking police stations. Several of such reports were in the public domain. The police was given some form of update. Then all of a sudden, we don't hear anything again. They don't tell us anything. So it suggests that, look, we are living in a banana state. That's the opinion. And a time will come when people will continue to take the law into their own hands.
Yes.
How would somebody sit on national television, dupe people? Because she has confessed that she was using voodoos or those things to conjure money in her own narratives after telling me and you that she's born again. If that is how people are born again, then today I'll be born again before 9 o'clock. Abena, let's move on.
What will you do before you become born again? Anyway, so I have the Chronicle, I have the Herald, also the Daily Post, and of course the Daily Graphic. I
have the Inquisitor, the Daily Dispatch, and the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let me start with Ghanaian Times. Front page, 3 completed projects left to rot in Gomua East District. That's the story on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Yesterday, I saw a lot of posts on the websites and even on social media. I think the Minister for Works and Housing was responding to the video taken by Hassan Ayariga, and he's telling me that we should just ignore him because he was on a propaganda agenda. I disagree with him, because I've seen a video of Atachia, who was a member of the Parliamentary Select Committee, who visited that site, and he gave all the complimentary remarks. Then they come to government and they suggest that there is corruption. But in that particular video that I have seen, and I'll try to pull it if I have time, or we have time in the course of this program, because I have the link to that video, and I'll try to pull it. Now, in that video, the engineer or the contractor at the site at Sanglemi said the first phase of the project was completed and they were just about to begin the second phase. So why is this narrative there that projects that have been completed for political expediency, government says that, oh, we want to complete the second phase, and the project which is supposed to serve the people because it is loans that we procured, sit down and rot. Kumasi Kejetia project, they wanted to finish the second phase before they open it till the Asantehene went there to get it opened. The Bank of Ghana housing project, they said it was not completed. They were going to add all the kinds of things we were expecting. The University of Ghana hospital, it was the same. They said it was not complete. They even went to say that there was no generator when the generator was sitting there. Because I have visited that facility several times. I've done documentaries on it, and I know it is ready for use. They said they want to finish the second phase before they go. And if you remember the narratives around it, when the medical student went to embarrass the first lady, the health minister, who is currently the health minister, gave us timelines. Money secured when they were supposed to start their phase 2 and when they are supposed to finish. And there are several of such projects. So why will you say, okay, the first phase is finished, so I want to wait and complete the second project? Otherwise, I will link it to 20 years ago as a project that was birthed maybe at that time by a certain regime. We are just wasting state resources. Abna.
Yeah, because
this is it. Front page, Ghanaian Times. Look at this. Abna, go ahead.
Sometimes, have you witnessed instances where landlords give their uncompleted buildings to people, they build and then they take out of their, what's it called, their rent? Have you witnessed that?
Yes.
So why can't we do the same?
Well, I just want people to be more angry this morning. Center Spread, a project that was completed. Now, if you look at the picture here on the screen, you'd see the state of the project as we speak. And this is Ghana. Somebody just put a small post on Facebook. It's called Benjamin Isuman, and I thought that it makes sense. It says that Akufo-Addo is spending $100 million on National Cathedral project. Hooray! John Mahama spending $200 million on 1,560 units Sanglemi project is a useless project. That is how people are trying to interpret it. And I'm asking, these are the subject that we must be discussing, because Sam Jonah has made me believe that if we don't take time after the next 40 years, because I have a son who is just 7 years, when he's 47, Ghana may be a hopeless state if we don't speak now and allow things to go the way they are going.
Right.
That's all I will pick from the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The other story says 17 African First Ladies others hold video conference, and it comes with a beautiful picture of Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, who is the First Lady, and 3 policemen others in Sekwa killing remanded. Abna, that's all.
That's all. Still something here in the Daily Graphic about the Sanglemi house, and it says that we need additional $32 million required to complete the housing project when the first phase is there and haven't been given out. If they give it out, definitely we will get this money to be able to complete the other phase. But anyways, now it also says that we can't take child beggars. This is coming from Social Welfare in Medina. Now, Graphic Zoom Lion launched national sanitation campaign today. On the back page of the Daily Graphic also says Kaswa Power substation to be completed by August 2021, where Sawa Hospital 93% complete. Now,
Daily Dispatch on its front page, Richard Nyama on Sam Jonah's speech. He indicted all governments and himself. And we have another story on Arthur Kennedy, who is on Sam Jonah's speech. All the details are on page 11 of the Daily Dispatch. Good morning, Ben Efson and Peter Ankoma. J.A. Kufuor to Sam Jonah. Proof that we are in a culture of silence. So all these are exciting angles to the statement or the address by Dr. Sam Jonah. Page 5, Daily Dispatch. It's talking about the defense committees under Jerry John Rawlings. So it's given us history. Yesterday, we did an exciting story. It's about Kwame Nkrumah. You know, he died 49 years ago.
Right.
And his body returned to the country, I think, around 1969, thereabout. It was sent to his hometown, Rafo, and later brought to Accra, I think, around 1992, when Rawlings had joined. You were 2 years old. How do you call it? Go ahead.
Okay, so please.
1992,
leave me alone. The Chronicle.
So it means 1992, if I was a bad boy and I started chasing.
Oh, you wouldn't have gotten me.
When I was in the secondary school, I could have given birth and you could have been my daughter. So you must respect me.
But I respect you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, from a Briar, right?
All right, so to the Chronicle. Now, on the banner story actually has to do with Sam George exposing the ignorance on the $1 deal, which is the Ghanaian's acquisition of the Airtel Tigo company. Now, a woman slashes husband's neck with a machete. That is a dangerous turn of events. But again, it had to do with abuse, because then if you read the story, you know that the man actually hits the woman first with a stick, and out of adrenaline she hits him with the machete. Now also, don't be wooed by Sanglam, a video. This is coming from Asenso Boache. Now Boateman, Tema residents angry over interruption in water supply. A few individuals, however, are seeking for the head of ECG boss as well. Back page is sports. Now I'll try. If Messi were Uruguayan, we would have won 2 World Cups. This is coming from Lugano. Now, Bayern unveil Nagelsmann as new manager after sealing record. That is a £21.7 million compensation deal. It's legals, man. Oh, I said I'll try. All right, so take yours.
Now, page 6 of the Inquisitor newspaper. Some interesting headlines. A Japan deal failed because Ghanaians did not trust government. That's what Dr. Steve Manthiel is saying. I don't know whether it's suggesting that it was a good deal, but the fact that Ghanaians didn't trust government, that is why it was pulled out. Well, I don't know what else is in there, because I heard him severally speaking against the deal because he said it was a bad deal. Now, cash for seat. State attorney's dismissal morale booster for investigators. That's what the Ghana Integrity Initiative is saying. The big story here says VIP was slighted. Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, Education Minister, Professor Grebel Eyumte, UDS Vice Chancellor, Nuruddin Issa Abubakar, Registrar Designate, UDS. And then we have the picture of the Vice President accompanying this headline. But apparently the story is about the appointment of the next registrar of the University of Development Studies. That's it on the front page of the Inquisitor newspaper. Right.
Now, we knew that our president not coming out to take a stand with regards to the gay community or same-sex marriage in our system was going to come with some consequences. Now, it says here that gay musician Boy George has composed what he calls a love song for President Akufo-Addo for his soft stance on the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer community. Now, it says further that this is seen as a renewed call on President Akufo-Addo by gay activists to reconsider legalizing gay relationship in spite of the overwhelming opposition to same-sex issues among Ghanaians. Like we said, every action...
So what has the paper succeeded in doing?
Putting out the, what's in the mind of the musician, isn't it? And the same-sex community.
So the paper is, if the paper is
promoting,
if the paper is against it, then it doesn't make sense publishing it. If you black them out, you then don't entertain some of these. I
think in a way it's also saying or calling on the president to make a stance with regards to all he said is that he's not going to legalize.
He says it will not happen.
We'll see.
Now, if it will not happen, what do? We take advantage of it and move forward with the positive side. The Speaker of Parliament has made it clear. In fact, traditional leaders, everybody has made it clear. Where we are now, our conversation should be on how we can sponsor a bill, because the Information Minister has suggested that there is the need for us to look at our laws again. So at this stage, if our MPs want to take this issue serious rather than the rhetorics. They just make statements on the floor of Parliament. It should be as urgent as possible because it's creeping into society. So our conversation should be geared towards when is the bill going to be ready? When are we going to subject it to public scrutiny, especially invite all the stakeholders to be part of the conversation? Then we give timeline so that as soon as possible. You remember how the bill against vigilantism was passed? It was urgent. It came after the Ayawaso West Wagon issue. Government was being bashed left, right, center. Government wanted to suggest to the public that, look, we are acting to address the concern you have. That bill came, all the stakeholders came, all the engagement. At the end of the day, it is zero, no problem. So if you want to do something about it, it is not this kind of publication. I disagree with the paper. I don't want to give it space.
It's not even about disagreeing with the paper or not. Before this law is passed, we as parents, I advise that you give your children some sort of orientation. Let them understand what to do, what not to do, especially when it comes to sex. And also, you see, these children, when you interview or you talk to some of these gay or lesbians, it started as molestation. The parents are going somewhere, they leave their children in the care of uncles or aunties or friends, and they introduce them to such things. So again, it comes back to having babies by choice, planning to have your babies so that when you have to even work and you're leaving your child, you know that your child is in safe hands in school because you have planned to have that child. Do you want to add anything?
Nothing, Abna. Wisdom Hedejoma is back.
Yes.
Yesterday I missed him.
Are you sure?
That time no now who say nipa no wisdom ayin buni.
All right, but there's an important information here I think we should put out there now. On the front page of the Daily Post, it's saying that some telco staff are involved in the Momo robberies, and so they're cautioning.
Yeah, I saw that story. I think the Public Affairs Department of the Ghana Police Service was speaking to, I think, Star FM, and that revelation came out. And I am not surprised.
I'm not either.
In banks, when people steal money from people's accounts, sometimes it is the banks or the bank staff who support some of these activities.
Because I've heard instances where they say, "Oh, we buy the contacts." So where are they buying the contacts from? Because the only people who have access to the data are those that work in there.
And several concerns have been raised about data that is stolen or given out to people. And so it's come up severally that why would you release our data to somebody else? And so even when EC produced the list of the voters register, the initial one, you realize that there was some conversation about the kind of data that accompanied it, and EC pulled it out and later came out. People have asked questions that this Momo business that MTN says that you need to produce your ID card so that they will take the details before they give it to you. People have also raised the same question that is it not too
exposing?
Is it not, yes, exposing people to danger that we may not know exists wherever it may be.
Right.
I don't know, but let's see how those who understand the sector will want to address these concerns.
Right. Now we'll make some money. We'll take a quick turn. When we come back, Wisdom Hedejome will come with details of some of the headlines.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. Natural mineral water. Simply natural.
I love makeup. Applying it gives me so much joy. But when it's time to take it off, nothing does the job quite like the black secret makeup wipes. When I go somewhere and I feel really sweaty, I take my black secret wipe and I use it on my face. It picks me up and I don't look as tired as I did when I walked in.
Before I work on a client's face, I like to go over it with black secret makeup wipes to make sure the face is clean. It doesn't leave the face dry and tight, but it keeps it soft and moisturized.
Wipe say your bodo.
Barco pick and it gets the job done. Or baby, and the smell makes the experience even better.
Two days to say bye-bye to April. Good morning and many thanks for joining TVX as the news in brief this morning. Coming up, tough hurdle ahead of special prosecutor nominee as his dealings with fraudulent Ijapa kingpins pop up amidst suggestions by critics he lacks capacity to deal with corruption. Details and why former Deputy Attorney General strongly disagrees coming up. This morning, Speaker inaugurates Parliamentary Service Board with strong notice to staff against work ethics. And later we'll tell you as we eulogize Dr. Kwame Nkrumah 49 years after his painful death in exile. And we shall hear why some young Ghanaians cry over attempt to bury his legacy. Details coming up in a bit. My name is Wisdom Heather. Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin the stories from the camp of the special prosecutor nominee. And he may not have been a subject for public scrutiny, but his office calls for it. It's now emerging special prosecutor nominee may have a tough time before the appointment committee of Parliament. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu has joined rhetorics by some academicians and legal practitioners who doubt Kisi Ejabian has the clout he holds to the new portfolio if approved. In short, Haruna Idrisu, who is a minority leader, like some academicians and legal practitioners, are suggesting lack of credentials weight to combat corruption. But former Deputy Attorney General Joseph Didier Penka is fighting back, insisting that his age cannot be a cause against him.
Until his appointment in July 2019 as chair of the Electronic Communications Tribunal, Kisi Ejabian had earned a strong reputation as an astute private legal practitioner. Colleague lawyers say there is no doubt about his rich knowledge and experience through his background as a lecturer at the University of Ghana School of Law with specialty in criminal law, international humanitarian law, and corporate law. Though he has not been actively involved in mainstream politics, critics are beginning to read meanings into the timing of his appointment in 2019 to replace Professor Justice Samuel Dateba, a retired justice of the Supreme Court who resigned in protest during his fight with the Ministry of Communications in the heat of the public debate over the closure of radio stations. But former Deputy Attorney General Joseph Benkpa is rubbishing those assertions, responding to skeptics who doubt his capacity to fill the perceived huge gap after Martin Abidu's exit, described such perceptions and fears as unnecessary.
I have no doubt in my mind at all that he will excel. I have heard a lot of commentary being run left, right, and center, but I have not heard a single person so far who has come out to question his academic credibility or credentials or his intellectual capacity or professional capacity. Not one person has so far questioned that. And that tells you who he is actually. When every member of society is unable to question your academic and intellectual capability and capacity, it tells you that you are a standout person.
The former Attorney General argues that, though very young, results-oriented Kisi Ejabian has proved over the years that young achievers cannot be easily swayed.
It's rather than expressing some level of pessimism and cynicism, I think that he is rather going to be a vindication of the youth. And I'm saying so because, as I indicated, the history surrounding the man is rich. You know his expertise is in criminal law. That's one thing you have to take notice of. And he's done a lot of high-profile cases defending persons before the superior courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court.
When Matthew Amidu resigned in November 2020, he raised a tall list of concerns and direct accusations against the president. Again, a section of the public privy to how Auditor General Daniel Domlivo left the scene have since harbored perceptions that the current administration under Nana Akufo-Addo is not committed towards the fight against corruption, a tag the president and the NPP have consistently rejected. But the former Deputy Attorney General says while critics are justified because of past antecedents, Xyz Ejabeng is experienced enough and will not bow to pressure as many would think to ditch his hard-earned reputation over the years.
There is no experience for sale at the market square. Experience is acquired through the work process and your compliance with work ethics and etc. So looking at who he is, and as I have indicated to you, mind you, he's 42, but he's been a lecturer for the past 13 years or so, or 14. He's been lecturing at a law faculty. So even people he's lectured would have been lecturers by now. And even though he's 42, in real life situation and the experience he's gone through and what he's been through, in fact, he's carrying an 80-year-old brain.
Now, I imagine there could be some cobwebs in Xyz Ejabeng's cupboard. Now, anti-graft campaigner Bright Simmons has dropped a bombshell. Bright Simmons, who is also Director of Research at Imani Center for Policy and Education, is flagging his appointment over his dealings with Kimpings in the sinking Ejapa royalties deal.
Parliament is yet to announce the date for the vetting of Special Prosecutor nominee Xyz Ejabeng. Ideally, the appointment committee will receive petitions from concerned Ghanaians for scrutiny before his appearance. But anti-graft campaigner Bright Simmons has called on Xyz Ejabeng to clarify the airwaves on his involvement with the issues relating to the dubious Ejapa mineral royalty deals. According to Bright Simmons, also Director of Research at the Imani Center for Policy and Education, the Special Prosecutor nominee must be able to explain his closeness to the law firms backed by a cousin to the president, Gabi Ochidako, who is in support of the controversial deal. He tweeted, "Mr. Ejabeng is a fine lawyer, but if he wants to be SP as reported, then he must commit to rescue himself from all Ejapa matters, given his close links to White and Case and ALA, run by Ejapa supporter Mr. Ochidako, else CSOs will oppose his appointment." Mr. Simmons, who resorted to a series of tweets on his handle, added on Monday, shortly after the news broke, quote, "The former special prosecutor resigned over the Ejapa deal. CSOs believe that his corruption risk assessment saved the country billions and was the biggest legacy. The decision to appoint a lawyer super close to law firms behind Ejapa gives CSOs every reason to be worried."
Now let's turn attention to Parliament, where the House is set for full operation after a successful inauguration of the Parliamentary Service Board. Now Speaker Alban Bagbin, who swore in members, served strong caution to all parliamentary staff. This regime will not entertain any breach of work ethics. Known for his frank speech, the Speaker said while Ghana's Parliament continued to receive high rating internationally, there is no doubt its rating today in the era of oversight is surprisingly low. He blamed this on the lack of needed personnel and resources, a concern that informed the decision to fight the executive over the capping of budgetary allocations in the 2021 budget. He also descended on lazy staff serving notice mediocrity or breach of work ethics will not be tolerated. He said, and I quote, "The board must work collectively to improve upon the work ethics of the staff. It is a fact that there are some members who are working and giving off their best to Parliament, but it's equally true that there are some who are insignificant. Members who contribute is nothing to write home about. Indeed, there are some who basically have to schedule and virtually do nothing, yet are paid by the state every month. This, I think, must change if we want to be a model parliament in Africa. He also charged members of the 8th Parliament Service Board to, among other things, facilitate operations of the various departments, the drafting and drafting of units of the Parliamentary Service Board, help MPs initiate private members' bill. The Speaker himself chaired the board. Other members are leader of government business Osei Mensa Bonsu, minority leader Haruna Idrisu, former MP and majority leader Abraham Osei Edu, clerk of parliament Cyril Insia, and NDC's general secretary Johnson Asidu Inketia. Let's turn our attention to history now. And 49 years ago, news about the death of Kwame Nkrumah in faraway Guinea, where he was exiled, broke. Now, surely at a time where his folks will be celebrating and popping champagne, but his legacy lives on. Here is a brief desk report to remind those of us who may have forgotten facts so soon.
Bold figures and the rigid conditions that the Volta River project was not only an economically viable project, but also an opportunity for the United States of America to make a purposeful capital investment in a developing country.
40 years ago, April 27, 1972 to be precise, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who will later be remembered till date as a bold, visionary leader whose exploits still live with us in Ghana, Africa, and the world at large, died painfully in exile. Kwame Nkrumah, who faced stiff opposition from his closest rivals right from the struggle for independence, survived several assassination attempts. His foes eventually succeeded. The coup was launched by the National Liberation Council with a code name Operation Cold Chop on February 24, 1966, while he was on his way to Peking, today's Beijing, en route to Vietnamese capital, Hanoi, with plans to end the America War with Vietnam. Kwame Nkrumah eventually settled in Conakry, Guinea, after being invited by Sekou Touré just after the military coup. He spent time there writing his books, letters, and related activities typical of him as a freedom fighter. 49 years after his death, the remains of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who died in Bucharest, Romania, is back home and resting peacefully.
The struggle of CPP, there is victory for us. Forward, ever, backward, never. In the name of great CPP, there is victory.
The return of his body to Ghana followed lengthy negotiations between Ghana's military rulers and the government of Guinea. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was first buried in his hometown at Ngolofol in July 1972. While the tomb still remains at Ngolofol, his remains were transferred to the National Memorial Tomb in 1992 under then Jerry John Rawlings, who had just become a leader under civilian rule. His imprints are engraved in every facet of Ghana's history and that of Africa. He survived threats both externally and internally for close to 10 years. In spite of these, he stayed focused, developing the country by way of infrastructure, the ports, building of roads, railways, housing, agriculture, industrialized Ghana by building dams and factories, fee-free compulsory education, the Ghana Education Trust that saw massive school projects at all levels, basic, secondary, technical, as well as tertiary. Some of his iconic projects still serve the country or reflect his visionary leadership. For example, the Akosombo Dam, the Tema Motorway, the Tema Port, the Atomic Energy Commission, the Pediasi Lodge, abandoned silos at the Tema Industrial Enclave, just to name a few within the Accra-Tema metropolis. Kwame Nkrumah, they say, never dies.
Well, let's turn attention to the Kwame Nkrumah Museum yesterday, and Xyz News engaged some folks around that area, and it's quite passionate how they spoke, irrespective of perceptions about attempt to rewrite his history.
We are still using the resources he's made for us, and yet still, he's not yet remembered that much, you know. So I would urge the public and everyone, every viewer watching us, you know, to celebrate Kwame Nkrumah. His birth and death is very important because he's the founder of, let's say he's the first Prime Minister of Ghana. So definitely he deserves some respect and he deserves to be, you know, honored. There are some things it's better left unsaid. But his birthday, it should have been on holiday, but I don't know why it's been changed. So definitely, if our leaders can do something about it, you know, it's really important because he's such a great person.
If you're looking at the condition we're living in right now in Ghana, we're actually moving backwards. We're not moving forward. Like he said, forward ever, backwards never. So that's how I'm going to end with it. And what I would say is, what it says that our current state, our government, they can do better, and they know they can do better. We should ignore like the colonial ways, and you know, we should do things the Ghanaian way, the African way, and you know, we gotta focus on what Kwame Nkrumah was trying to do in his agenda, and if we don't, then I guess this nation is for sale.
The your past president, you know, no nyansa pa, no nimdia kubitim dia chiro maeno na onona duology woni tribunal no de person de chiro maeno na ye ku school kakra ye sua ne ho asem kakra ba ye niemo be ye wo o ma wi mu no ye because Kwame Nkrumah ta ye benya state farm and no hwehwe state farm a hu bi mu ye benya Meridium Hotel and away ye hu bi mu papa ne de na nko betimi a won da so wo ma wi mu a anka ne nke te se de Dubai for ye no nke ke duro nka nyane se ye man ayi se nti ye ma wi de papa no de afere papa.
Well, so how are you eulogizing the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah? Well, keep the discussion active everywhere you find yourself. Well, now the minority in Parliament will later this morning hold a news conference on the power sector. Now the news conference, which will take place at the new auditorium of the Job 600 complex, follows conflicting signals amid suspicions about attempts to cover up self-inflicted crisis facing the power distributors. Now the minority group insists the intermittent power outages as a result of government huge indebtedness to independent power producers, but that has been rubbished. Government insists there is no doomsday and there is no need for a general timetable for the entire country. But last week, the ECG released a timetable for doomsday in part of Accra beginning May 7 to 12, which will mainly affect Pokuase and Sawom, Bawe, Malam, Achimota, Awushi, and nearby communities. Now the light out 12 hours each daily is to pave way for completion of work at the Pokwase bulk supply point. Now, still on that sector, and the Energy Minister, who has begun an inspection tour of the ongoing Greatco ECG project site, has visited the Kaswa bulk supply power points. Now, yesterday, Chief Executive of the Millennium Development Authority, MEDA, which is funding the project, told the media work could be completed by August this year. Martin Esan Benjamin said both the Pokwase and Kaswa BSP project is estimated at $110.
Part of Accra or Central Region or Western Region or Ashanti Region, there's a reason for your intermittent outages. Which reason? For the last 3 weeks, we've been touring Greatco sites to see what system improvements they are bringing. We were in Greatco 3 weeks ago, we were in Pokwase, and today we are in Kaswa. Such system improvements is going out parts of this country. We will just continue to ask for patience and forbearance for the people working here. Almost all the people working here, you see, over 90% are Ghanaians, working hard day in and night to ensure that the power systems that have not been upgraded for a very long time get the needed investment to ensure a more reliable power system in the country.
And that's all we have time for this morning. Do log on to my xyzonline.com for more news stories and updates. My name is Wisdom Hedejman, who will return morning update continues. Good morning.
Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For Akwesi Papa, peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With the low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Needs Microfinance. Growing with you.
Yeah, so eat a lot of fruits so that if not for anything at all, you have free metabolism or good metabolism and get free bowels, and avoid getting piles in future. If you don't know what piles is, it's cocoa, and you know how these things are developed. Today, I will be appraising a certain man, but before I do that, there's something I saw about him written online, and it's not even coming from any of us. Now, it says that he is a sensational journalist who always speaks truth to power without fear or favor, and also campaigns for freedom of speech for media practitioners and the entire citizenry. So at least this gives you a fair idea of why I am or will be celebrating this man today. he just recently won an award with Focus Awards as the most influential political program show host of the year. And we have been sending in congratulatory messages. We do not wait for somebody to die before we celebrate the person, which is becoming a norm. The last time I was going home and that thought just came into my head. Why do we always wait for people to die before we praise them? And so we are changing the narrative. We celebrate people who are doing well, who are making an impact in society before they die. Now, there are lots of people who say very nice things about him, who listen to his program, who follow his show. I'm sure 1 or 2 people watching me now also follow him as well. He's been hosting the show on Power FM, our sister station, 97.9. You can tune in during the day and listen to him as well. And he's been inspiring people. He's been putting out the truth without fear or favor. He reports nothing but the truth. But then again, you know, people who are very truthful and are very passionate about what they are talking about sometimes are seen as a bit radical with the way they present the truth. And so a few people have said a few things about him being too radical, about how he puts the truth out there, here and there. But he has a segment on his show called the Gumbe, and this is where the Spirit of the Lord descends on him and he speaks the truth just as it is. We have recorded a video for you to see, just in case you haven't experienced that. Take a look.
Meet me in the afternoon, I'll meet you in the evening. If you meet me in the evening, I will meet you during midnight. Menya betem. And I'm a cementanasi. Mijina hona mena okasa. Saka ne tensi a wode bagana hano. I was so yana hwiye pa. Ghana asumdwe mayo. Ghana ya wa asumdwe. Peace Council ayedi. Catholic Bishop Conference ayedi. Diananado Efra Mobaba Mokwakwatna Sietie Sejo Mahama Akokase Achem Sakawa boys. I know they mobile pay attention to listen to those useless comments. But the Catholic Bishop Conference, they are quiet. The Peace Council, the Christian Council, Chief Imam Nene 24, they are all quiet. The clergy, Mayedi. But Nyame, Messi wa akumem, and ya enusua enwohe. Yahumunyina na dabi amekane say the kingdom of God is Satan was so hini no aben na obi abebu na obi agopo bebu obi ara tan say ne nyuma sitie mamo fam ho nyame ne pa nyame akoa ya useless things ekwoso man we mu okode tilapia ne fish pond ho wono ko ne nam wo bie ne wo tie sa farija wo be ne nsa ana atobo akura bonikem ndi bisa wo se adan etesen adama wutuo no abrabo a wo bo no bisa wo se etesen mumisa mo ho se etesen saloto sai ho na na ondama saloto sai na ma ene oja ne dwumadi afari o mu na mo ba bi o mu na mba bia ene wo kwa mutumi nante obakwa asore ko aje se posifo ne asojafo di wachi o ya president bisa wo se etesen wo ba ya na wo ya wadwene se wo se kan betwa rat na twa eye left ya wo bia ni woni asam.
I told you that he speaks the truth, and he says it with so much passion, and I think the word is he's uncensored, unfiltered. He says it as it is, and that is why people have issues with the way he tells the truth. But if we have about 10 of such people in this country, I think that this country will be in a much better position. Now, speaking of being in a much better position, TV Xyz decided to congratulate him, and we want you to see how that went.
To 2019 you know na ya adwuma ni bi kakra ewo Xyz Tanzania move aba power and our nominate for the first time. Now our first time I nominate na nipa was our category hono ni nipa be insia ene no no yekoye nyame ya adoma Xyz broadcasting yetumi enya award kesi na ewom no ajemanso tumi bo no homode enya entertainment host of the year. I just say I was in the na year den e buy na ni year 2018 2019 no ene wa ha no ene yesan eko obi na hwa second one no then so ye ne ani wom nipa be ye insia saa eno so dache hene etuminya ye newscaster of the year na mesuminya ye political talk show host of the year na wo hwe mienu na agi nyina na ne the whole Ghana na ye region by region but wo hwe ye Falklands the ye kwaji ye miminde ya eno no we no mood papa Falklands the no na category ho no ye nipa mako 8 na nipa mako 8 no ya omo eyiye nyina no ye ni etumi edi nkunim ewo eye Greater Accra region na ye ka radio zu a ne kase ye ni furuma ni nyina esi eye Greater Accra eye region ha to wo hwe category no kwabena bobi ansa no wom ye nua obi asempa wom efrapoku avim lady ewom eye Majeri ewom CJ Adom FM no so ewom nipa no ne doso ne nipa nwotwe meka ho anwotwe na koba asi etumi sanji we nsu ye de eka ho. Yeah, so that was
Mugabe and TV talking to TV XYZ. But the man of the hour is on the line. Oh, but you didn't think I was going to have this conversation by myself. We have to speak to the man and know how exactly he's feeling about this award. Now, good morning, Mugabe. Hello, Mugabe, good morning. Hello, Mugabe, can you hear me? Okay, so we'll be trying to still get in touch with him. My producer is doing that. But as I indicated earlier, this is a man who is selfless, who talks about things the way that it is. Now, if you were watching the video earlier, you'd realize that he wasn't even talking about just his award. He acknowledged his colleagues who are also doing well. He spoke about Ajiman and other people that are doing well as well. And so it tells you that he's a man with good intentions. But again, somebody will also tell you, say, if that wasn't so good, why is he winning all of these awards? He's winning a lot of awards, and he deserves to be congratulated for that. Me, what I want to know, to be completely honest with you, as someone who also sits on TV and tries to make an impact, not just come and sit here and talk, is how he does this, his motivation, and how he's been consistent this whole years. Now, he's on the line now. Mugabe, good morning.
Good morning, my dear sister.
How are you doing? How are you feeling? I think that should be the question.
The feeling is so good.
It is, huh?
It's still great. Currently, I'm in Tema for 1 or 2 engagements this morning. So
another award-winning one, I guess.
Oh, no, not really.
Not really. Me, what I want to know is how you have been so consistent, how you have been able to maintain that energy from beginning to this point.
Well, my dear, thanks so much to your viewers and all those who are...
Hello, Mugabe, can you hear us? Oh, Lord. I think where he is has very bad reception, and so it's becoming very difficult for us to talk to him. But yes, you heard Mugabe. We're trying to get him again before the segment, and so we can talk to him and hear his motivation. Maybe you out there also, you're thinking of getting into something, getting into TV. You should be passionate about the things that you do. Again, me, I've been saying that, and yesterday, yes, I thought about this, about how people get into things that they are not passionate about, and so when they start doing it and start facing certain challenges, eventually they wither away, because then their passion isn't there. They went into it for one reason or another. But when you go into something that you're passionate about, then definitely you will last in. Also, I do have Alaji Sorogo on the line. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, my dear sister. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
We are fine. We are fine. We are in Ramadan season, and we are praying to God. We are always praying to God. Ghana has been turned upside down. We hope that Allah will listen to us and put the right sense into our leaders so that they can actually be serious in handling the Ghanaian economy. Things are just not good.
Yes.
Very bad.
Yes, that's you. Yeah. Yes, we pray. We'll be praying with you as well. Some of us, we can't do the fasting, but we can pray.
You can. It's a matter of faith. So long as you belong to the faith, you you won't know where the energy comes from. You are fasted, and that's the end. But that's okay. We cannot all belong to the same faith. We all worship the same God. And so, in your own small way, you can also pray to God, because Ghana now, where we are going, I think it needs intervention. We are heading towards dangerous waters. Dangerous. We are past dangerous. We are going to disaster. We are just descending into a galley. And we don't know who is going to hold the brakes, because the driver and then those who are handling the train, they've lost control. So the train, as at the former car, free. And
Jesus take the wheel. Jesus take the wheel. That's what we have to quickly arrange and take the wheel. Alaji, as someone who also speaks the truth as it is, I'm sure you've also heard that Mugabe, who has been truthful and very passionate about what he's been doing, has won the Falklands Award. Is there something you would like to say to him? I'm sure you've encountered him once or twice.
Oh, Mugabe, I can say, is my younger brother. I know his exploits and the way he handled the program. I very much believe that unless he decides that, look, he's no more interested, he doesn't want to contest, it will be difficult. I'm not saying that impossible, but it will be difficult for somebody to beat. And the reason is just simple. He's a person who is straight to the point. He listens to what the people want. He tries as much as possible to straighten, our political leaders. He tells the truth, and in even doing so, have to pay a bigger penalty. And don't forget that Mugabe and his other true friends were sent to prison for not any crime that should have earned him that new abode. But he was sent there. People were thinking that, it was to calm him down. But you see, when you are on the truth, nothing can stop you. When he came back from prison, he continues his work, because he knows that it is the truth and nothing but the truth. And so he touches it with the youth, with the reality on the ground. And it's not just to NDC, PNC, it is Ghanaians across the spectrum. And even I can tell you that in my office here, if you see the number of MPP youths in Medina who come to me, that they want me to give them Mugabe's number, they want to call him and congratulate him, and that what is on their mind, trying to bring it out, is exactly what is champion, and you won't believe it. So I want to congratulate him. I knew he was going to win. I want to congratulate him, but of course, in congratulating him, there's always room for improvement. There is this proverb that says that when the river bends, the crocodile also has to bend. Because if the crocodile decides to go straight, it will hit. What I want to say is that you don't use, a knife on somebody who has used a knife on your neighbor. I know Mugabe very well. I know when he's talking the truth, nothing can stop him, and I know that it's going to continue. But I think there's still a lot of room for improvement, especially when we get to the Gumbe area. Of course, he tells it as it is, but with sober, maybe in one way or the other, when his heart is coming, I know him, Monsieur Kwada. So when his heart is coming, he cools down. And especially when I'm at the program, you see how I will cool him down. But I can tell you, Mugabe is an asset to Ghana. Not an asset to power, not an asset to the NDC. Mugabe is an asset to Ghana. And I think we need more of Mugabe's in the bureau. Look, my sister, let's be strong with ourselves. During the NDC era, John Dramani Mahama, look at the various radio stations. Look at those seniors, they call them, they are the senior journalists. Look at any time they really play the role of the fourth rep. Today, what is happening? What has changed? On the economic front, things have become worse. People were complaining that we're buying milk at 2 cities. Now they are not complaining. They are buying at 4 cities.
Yeah.
People who were leading and saying that why should petrol be sold at 16 cities? Today, petrol is heading towards 26, and they see nothing wrong with it. People who said that, look, we were taking loans, and that when they come, they will not. Today, they've taken 3 times and we don't see anything. And these senior journalists are all quiet. Why?
I understand your frustration, Alaji, but we do have Mugabe on the line, and I would like for him to respond to the advice. Hello, Mugabe, good morning.
Good morning once again, my dear.
Yes.
But you didn't even tell me Mugabe was on the line.
He just sorry about that. We just got him on the line.
Oh yeah, but I would have said what I said, because just like him, the truth is
yes, definitely. So Mugabe, in summary, or very quickly, what do you take from, or what do you say to Alaji for the advice he's put out there?
I will use this opportunity to thank him very much. He has been one of my pillars. Always, we always visit each other. I normally visit him, and he also, when he gets time, he also visits me in the house. Sometimes we sit down together, and then we do our normal visits. So I would like to thank him for his advice and everything. All that I want to say this morning to our viewers is that in life, you need to be disciplined. You need to be determined in whatever you want to do, and you need to dedicate yourself in whatever post you want to achieve. We in the media, our role is to put the government on its toes. My job is to be in the studio, making sure whatever that I put on air, I do my text to make sure I put, accurate information. I always present the truth, nothing but the truth, to my listeners. As our ethics says, you need to be circumspect in your reportage. So I will continue to do that. I will not I will not let anything discourage me, but rather I will move on stronger and stronger to make sure that Xyz TV, Xyz Radio, and Power FM will continue to be #1 in Ghana.
Thank you so much, Mugabe.
My sister, before I leave, let me just tell
Mugabe. Have a lot of time, so quickly, about 30 seconds.
Just a second. Mugabe should also thank the wife, because the Mugabe works at them deep into the night, and this woman is so patient. She does everything. She supports Mugabe, and so Mugabe should give a lot of thanks to the wife, to the mother, and to the father for their fatherly and motherly advice, and to radio power effect for the people who got power and had confidence in him and put him there, and all the staff, all the presenters, the producers, everybody, including you, the way you have supported him, because he alone wouldn't have been able to achieve it.
Definitely.
By the intervention of all of you. We say thank you, and may God continue to bless all of us.
Thank you so much, Alaji. Also, you have also been a contributing factor to his success and ours as well. So God bless you as well. And do have a good day, sir. All right, so we did have Alaji Sorogo on the line, former MP from Medina, and of course, the man of the hour, Mugabe himself. And he said something that resonated with me. He said, in everything that you do, you should be dedicated and disciplined. And that is something I would like to leave with you this morning. This program, of course, is brought to you by X Natural Mineral Water and, of course, Black Secret Makeup. Get your groove on, girls. All right, Eric Ayanyo is on standby for the newspaper review, so stay tuned.
Ifo kra na menyisika etia ye mefui.
Ehinfa pa na menya bosia edia tre medwuma yimu.
Kai kra mabre mi yebusia ato taxi fufu. Suhum Rural Bank.
Suhum Rural Bank.
Yemamwa kwa baba Suhum Rural Bank. Ye won hyehyɛ ahodo bi te sɛ dwadifo abosia, ekoko bosia, susu account, eni da so wo ho savings account, me bada chain savings account, ene de keka ho. Suhum Rural Bank was 03422918896. Now on so what to Miaka say.
Suhum Rural Bank, Ama ene Mayeka Una.
Suhum Rural Bank, Entime pa minie.
Suhum Rural Bank, growing our heritage.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yes.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah. Always drink fresh, natural eggs, mineral water.
You still got it. Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back. This is Morning Update on TV Xyz, Xyz TV, and I'm sure many of you are also following us on social media, Facebook and YouTube. My name is Erika Hianyu, and I'm sure you have been following us since 6:30. Today, lots of things on the table. We don't know how many of them we shall be able to deal with. I have one of my guests in the studio. Gilbert is well known. Gilbert, you are welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Gilbert is a member of the NDC's National Communications Bureau. Gilbert, this morning, one of the stories that is trending is about abandoned projects.
That's right.
I'm sure yesterday you followed the conversation that was triggered by Hassan Ayariga, who went to the Sanglemi project site. And then we also have the Minister for Works and Housing who is responding to it. And he's suggesting that that project was put on hold because a lot of investigations had to be done, because the suspicion was that the project was bloated in terms of the cost. And they also need about 30 million or 35 or so million dollars to complete the project. And today, Ghanaian Times has also come out with a certain a certain story, and it says 3 completed projects left to rot in Gomua East. And I showed this story earlier. And then the center spread comes with pictures of the completed project which has been abandoned and the state of the project as we speak today. I don't know what you make of this, because this is not the first time. Many governments over the years abandon projects. Unfortunately, at this time, these ones are coming up, and it brings back the same conversation.
Thank you very much. And let me say a very good morning to our viewers and your viewers. You see, when it comes to development, we all know basic knowledge that continuity is core. And that is what will bring about effective use of our resources, which we all know as scarce. And over the years, rightly put, we have a lot of abandoned projects. I know even in my hometown, if you go to Savannah region, Damango, for example, there is an old project at the regional education office. It's been there. They were born to meet that project. It was started during the Nkrumah era. It's still there, uncompleted. Now, and I want to stress that Ghana at the moment, there are a lot of projects that were started, even from the Nkrumah era, that we have refused as a people to complete. I'm aware by economic history that we have a gold refinery in Takwa. It's still sitting there.
At Takwa?
Yes. Then let me come to Tema. Cocoa processing. Even though they do chocolate, readings indicate that the primary purpose of cocoa processing was not chocolate. It's just a one or a diversified product, which has become the main. They were supposed to process the cocoa either into paste, cake, or powder and send them, because Nkrumah said that no bean, no one will live unprocessed. And so when you go there, you see these silos that was supposed to store the cocoa. And I remember one media house did a documentary on it. The crans and everything are still working all this while, and it's still there. But I remember it was one of the projects that His Excellency John Ramon Mahama, it was online to revisit it, because when they did the jute factory, the shoe factory, which are also abandoned project, the next was to get to that one also. Unfortunately, the people of Ghana decided to change regimes. But what hurts as a Ghanaian today, we wake up in modern time. Then we have a government that sat down, did a kind of audit of our infrastructure base, and we can identify deficits on our roads, housing, and a lot of other places. Decided to invest massively in the road project, massively in housing, health, even education. Let me limit it here. Then the education, 200 schools, give and take the things, at least 40 something, 50 were completed. How about the rest? Till today, they are still hanging. And we are doing double track. How many years would it take to complete the rest of the schools and give comfort to our children and teachers to go comfortably? 4 years is wasted, and the projects are still sitting there. Then you come to housing. A lot of housing projects are hanging. Let me get to this agreement project. The minister probably doesn't understand, or the New Patriotic Party do not understand the concept. It was supposed to be about 5,000 housing units. They started with the first phase, and the project was supposed to roll on. They finished this 1,000 plus. Tenants get in. Then the proceeds will go to the next. That's why it has to go over a period to get the 5,000. This one is there's a change of government. You come, then you leave it there. I heard what the former minister there, Atachian, said about the project. Initially, he said there were a lot of underpinning, but later he came to say the project was good and that the project will be completed. Now you have come, complete. Look at the housing deficit. There are a lot of people, even just finish it and give it to departments and ministries. They can pay and get their staff there. And remember that most of the people, they can deduct the rent at source. And that will bring in revenue. That will, you plow it back and complete the project. And other ones, that will solve the problem. But you see, we have a government that do not understand what to do. And the point is this: we have departed from, I remember this institution that was led by PV Obin, the late PV Obin. After it was Dr. Nimoy Thompson who took over.
The National Development
Commission. Very well. They developed, it was led by the former president, the late Professor Mills, to do it was a 40-year development.
We will go into those details.
Okay.
But let's tackle the issue one at a time. We have projects that are abandoned because they have not been completed. We have issues about projects completed that are still waiting to be commissioned.
That's right.
And then we have projects that never came up, even though governments over the years either managed to secure money or made those assurances as far as the budgets are concerned. At this stage, the concern is about completed projects. And so the narratives are, why will any government decide not to allow those who may be the beneficiaries of such projects go into them? Normally for you politicians, because the NDC has done it before, the NDC came to power and there were projects that were existing that were never completed. For example, if you go to the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital, I know that under the Nana Akufo-Addo administration between 2017
and 2020, there's been a lot of activity that has seen either the maternity ward or one project or the other, seen some leverage in terms of support or contribution. So when Mahama was building the University of Ghana Medical Center, or maybe renovating the Ridge Hospital or the Bank of Ghana Hospital, critics will say he could equally have gone to Kumasi to complete that project. So the narratives cannot be isolated or limited to the MPP alone.
Yeah, I agree with you to a level, but you see, we have to look at what is the commitment of a regime to tackling the abandoned project, and what is the rationale behind it. You observe that when the previous NDC regime, led by His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, he cautiously decided to lift up industry and to revamp all existing industries that were defunct. And the ceramic was one, ceramic factory. Till today, it's complete, it's not operating. Then we have the shoe factory. And the shoe factory was there, and yet the military and our forces were importing these things. And to conserve the foreign exchange, they were supposed to film. There was an executive order that they should pick the boots from the shoe factory. There will be a ready market. Then import to supplement until the shoe factory builds capacity to supply enough for all the forces, which started. They have come, they've given supplies to people to import. The shoe factory is sitting there again. Then we have most of the other projects. You see, and you realize that the hospitals, there was the need to come out with that one. The health of the people is core. That's why we have a lot of the new ones and the district hospitals. Then I'm aware that there were provisions to tackle the Convanoche Hospital. The only problem is that we lost power at the time. And you realize that they were doing another military hospital in Kumasi. And that will bring a kind of, it will reduce the pressure on Convanoche Hospital. Then development can also go, and renovation and upgrade of the hospital can go on. The thing has to be strategic, saying that you provide a facility that will render a better service. Then to decongest this, then you upgrade that. That was the plan I saw within the Ministry of...
So the idea was to build a military hospital, which will have space to tackle maybe serious cases. The Convanoche Teaching Hospital is a referral facility. Now, there's a thin line, especially when you listen to both sides of the political divide and the reasons why you may decide not to use a facility, in this case, which is ready for the people. You always make reference to corruption, procurement breaches, and so on. Why do we have that suspicion in your heads when, for example, you go to any ministry, they have their own internal audit system? Then you have the the Auditor General's Department, which will do the follow-ups, which will end at the office of the Public Accounts Committee. So why don't you come and use the facility and continue your investigations, and if somebody is found culpable, you deal with the person? Because Ghanaians are not happy that a project is ready for use, people need that facility, and we leave it to rot because the money is not coming from our pocket. That seems to be the tangent.
Yeah, but you see, I'm coming to get for people to understand the difference between the commitment of the NDC to this project and the commitment of the New Patriotic Party. Let's even pick the NDC. Which projects of the previous MPP government did the NDC abandon? How many were the projects? How many were solved, and how many are left? I know the N1 was completed, and even Kufuor was honored to be part of it. The Bridam, the same thing. And then let's take the housing project, affordable housing project. You see, they tangled the housing project with a private investor who wanted to hold on. So what did the government do then, the NDC, to take to just make it visible for a state entity to pick it up? They had to bring Senate in to pick it and then develop them, and Senate will run them. But you see, the private investor will have to soften and get this public entity to partner or take over. But if the private investor they put there is still holding on to his bit of it, it will not be fair, it will not be prudent, it will not be viable for people's contribution for their retirement to be put into that project, where a larger chunk of it will go to a private investor put there by a government. So those things had to be resolved. Where they were resolved, you realize that Senate took over. Where those things are not resolved, they're still on the negotiation table. So it depends on how you partner with who is doing what. Look, this agreement project like this, it's not something that is difficult. Look, if really investigate, why do you have the prisons at Insabon? Get into it. How many years do you have to investigate that project? What duration does it take to do that investigation? If people are really culpable, get them to the court and do the needful. You leave it there, people are suffering, and you're wasting the resources. And remember this, that I always want to go to our constitution. The first article gives, authority to the president. We delegate authority to the president to use our resources for one major purpose, goal. And that is to promote the welfare of the people. That is all the president is
through development.
Yeah, whatever he does, whatever he spends, whatever penny he has to spend, the purpose of every penny is to promote the lot of the people, the welfare of the people. And if you have housing and we have these challenges, and we have a lot of, look, it's not only about some projects are completed. Look, you see, the MPP has some, let me be very blunt here, some kind of hatred for a particular person or a party. And it's that their hatred is to the former president or the NDC. And they think that when they finish and put this project to use, the glory goes there, and they can't give you the glory.
No, but the NDC equally does same to the NPP. And let me walk you into what I have observed. For example, Ghanaians are very enlightened today because of social media. And a lot of Ghanaians are following conversations of national discourse. You'd realize that when governments begin projects, they make it public. So we assume that the public is informed about what that government may have done in the past. Today, people are able to dig information or something somebody may have said 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and use against them. So even when you talk about the Sanglemi project, I was referencing a video that is going viral about the pronouncement by Atachia, who was Minister for Works and Housing from 2017 to 2020. But at the time that video was recorded, he was a member of the Select Committee on Works and Housing. They visited the project and he expressed satisfaction, commended the contractor, and the contractor in that particular video said that he had finished the first phase and was getting ready to execute the second phase. Now, all these things have happened over that period. But what happens that is of worry to the public is the fact that when you assume office, whether it is NDC or MPP, you always make reference to that suspicion. Now, how should I, an individual Ghanaian, respond to this practice that seems to be going on? Because if you look at the Sanglemi project, for example, there's every indication from what Mahama Yarga showed that some of the facilities are ready.
Yes. I visited a lot of them are ready for habitation. I just, you see, that's what I'm saying, that the idea is, one, they usually do not want to give glory to the predecessor, which is bad. Number two, I think the New Patriotic Party in this context came up with a lot of issues against the then John Dramani Mahama-led NDC government, that they were incompetent, they borrowed so much, and there's nothing to show for all the borrowing. And Ghana is indebted. Our GDP was, debt to GDP ratio was hitting 70 plus thereabout, and that portrayed that he didn't do anything. Now, they come and these are projects he has done. Even the roads that he has started, they abandoned everything in the name of auditing across the country, most of the roads. And you see, at the end of the day, the idea was to portray that the NDC government did not do anything and wasted our money.
See, I believe that Ghanaians today will agree that The NDC has contributed its part. The MPP is contributing its part because today they are in government. A time will come when Ghanaians will be in a better position to compare notes, whether 4 years, 4 years, or 8 years, 8 years, as we saw before the 2020 elections. Now it is walking into 8 years, 8 years, if they have to bring in the Mills Mahama factor. When you spoke earlier, you said the MPP under Nana Akufo-Addo is hesitant to commission projects that are ready for use because he doesn't want to give the glory to the NDC.
Yeah.
Don't you also think that this practice of claiming everything as yours brings the competition where governments then deliberately decide that let us also start something and give that credit to ourselves? Because when the Pokwasi interchange, which is near completion, comes up anytime, the NDC says this is a Mahama project, this is a Mahama vision, Mahama commissioned it, the project started, and therefore the Nana Akufo-Addo cannot come and claim it. There are several of them that pops up, and you see these videos going around to justify whose vision or who started it. This who started and who did it business, is it not a recipe for what we are witnessing today?
You see, that is where I think that these political parties, I mean, let me say that they engage in an exercise I will call mediocrity. The fact is this: these are national resources, and we all know are scarce and cannot be wasted because we do not even have enough of it. So they engage in a waste of our resources. Let me, I said this somewhere, let me put it this way. Tell me, Eric, what would happen if the MPP government led by Nana Addo today used the earlier 4 years they had to complete all these projects and commission all of them? Then getting to election,
and NDC would take the credit.
Let
and
NDC,
what is the MPP?
But you granted that they complete all the projects, put them into use, and then by the December 2020 and today as we speak, they tell us that they have not been able to do the 1D 1F. They've not been able to do the 1 village 1 dam. They've not been able to do the 88 hospitals because they have to complete these projects. Then they can now add onto it. Ghanaians are not stupid to think that they have wasted our time. But this is the case. The projects were not completed. Every single thing they have promised has not been delivered. And that means we have wasted 4 years. Complete waste. Because the existing projects have not been finished. New ones promised to are also suffering. Then what have you been doing with our resources? Meanwhile, they have depleted every reserve in this country. Borrowed than any other country within the country to add up. And we have more revenue coming from the oil sector to add up. So at the end of the day, all these have not been able to go into new projects marginally that will promote our development to the level we actually want it. And we have not finished even the old project that's still hanging there. Then what are we doing as a people? And that's why we cannot sit back and allow the politician to engage this, because if you allow the politician, he will engage in ways and means that would enrich his private lot against the majority. And that's why civil society will have to speak, and do not leave this to the NDC and the MPP. The fact is that the NDC will scream and shout, complete the project and do this one. But there's a neutral voice who are actually the kingmakers. The traditional MPP people cannot give the MPP power. The traditional NDC people like me cannot give NDC power. They swing voters. They are the kingmakers of this country. And their voice should be stronger. All of a sudden, we have our universities dead quiet.
You are talking about the academia.
Academia.
I will come to the academia.
They're going to sleep.
I want to read 3 paragraphs from this story, which talks about completed projects left to rot in the Gomoa East District. And I'll ask you your reaction to the serious concerns raised in this particular story by Abdul Rahman Nyanyano. Now, 3 completed projects constructed over 10 years ago meant to improve the lives of the fast-growing coastal fishing Gomoa Nyanyano community in the Gomoa East District of the Central Region have become white elephants and deteriorating. The community projects are Nyanyano Cold Store Facility, meant to help the fisher folks preserve their catches for the market. the small water system, that's Water Health Center, for the supply of potable water to the community, and an information communication center. Now listen to this. The computers and accessories stocked in the ICT established by the Ghana Investment for Electronic Communications, that's GIFEC, around 2009 to promote the teaching and learning of ICT have been allegedly burgled. The Gomoa East District Chief Executive Solomon Dakon Kwam told the Ghanaian Times. On a visit to the community last Monday, the Ghanaian Times found that the project had been abandoned over the years and left to go waste in the community as the buildings are overgrown with weeds on the surroundings unkempt. The co-store with ancillary facility of offices and sheds set up with the avowed aim to prop up the local economic development has since inception over a decade ago seen no activity, with only the activity in the yard being the flip-flopping amidst the breeze, and the story goes on and on. And if you look at the picture on the center spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, I'm sure you see on my left-hand side the picture of the facility and its state today. So it tells you that 9 years would have meant that it surpasses 10 years would have meant that it surpasses the Mills Mahama administration through the 4 years of Nana Akufo-Addo. But in there's a mention of 2009 and the ICT Center, for example, which was stopped. So I presume that either President Kufuor finished that project or Professor Mills finished that project and the facilities were ready. And under the Mahama regime, it shouldn't have been left at the state as the paper is reporting.
No, but reading the story, I realized that most of the facilities started in 2009. And if you want to really assess it, from 2009 to 2016, marginally, there have been some improvement to completion. The project was not completed in 2009. You just mentioned the lab had computers stocked in 2009. But the other parts of it, we do not know their state between 2009 and 2016.
And the headline says 3 completed projects left to rot. And the conversation has walked through the perceptions about corruption, through what civil society must do to put pressure on government to address some of these things. Now, going forward, how can we get this resolved? Because I remember in the 2020 electioneering campaign, because we followed, Razor TV and TV XYZ followed the press call that accompanied the former president. I remember he was making a pledge that when he wins the 2020 elections, he was not going to execute new road projects. He was going to ensure that all existing ongoing projects started by him or Nana Akufo-Addo will be completed. I've heard this government, before the appointment committee, say that they are not going to start new road projects. They are going to continue new ones and complete them. How can we hold you people to account?
Thank you. You see, we as a people, you see, the fact is this: the person who has the executive power decides where to channel the resource at a time. We can even use the minority in parliament to scream and shout, and yet we do not have executive influence. And it's the executive who has so much power to decide on what to do. The problem with this project is that there's this economic stuff, we say that they are public goods. And with public goods, there is one major problem with public goods. It's a problem of property right. Mm-hmm. The problem of property right for public good means that who owns it? If this facility was given to the traditional council of this area that they will own it, it won't be in this state because they won't allow it. If one private entity was part of it, because of the property right control of it, it won't get to this level. But because it's a public good and it's for government, and our institutions that are supposed to hold government to get these things done are weak and are weakened because of the kind of appointment and control the executive has over them. And that is the problem. Do you remember last week we mentioned it, and I'll say that, look, the strength of our democracy is in the checks and balances, which is the power of the institutions to hold the executive to do what's supposed to be done. If we have an entity that can go the ministry of, let's say, an entity within a ministry of, if it is a health facility, will go there and then they issue a report indicating that it has to be done. Then they look at the resources within and channel them there, that the executive doesn't have control to decide when it is done. That is the problem. So the problem is the institutions. And it's the institutions that will hold the executive to apply the resources. Civil society can add our voices, and that is what we call the pressure that will come from them. And at this time, most of these projects, I think that going forward, if you want to do this project, the community involvement is core. That will be solving the problem of these property rights, which government has control over and makes it an absolute public good that can get here and nobody cares. But the fact of the matter is this. Look, at this time of our development, in the wisdom, to apply wisdom, the commonest wisdom you can think of, is to get back and get all these projects to serve the communities. Complete them. And I followed the campaign promise of the manifesto promise of the NDC in 2020 that all abandoned projects will be complete. Then we continue from there. I heard, very clear, it was loud. So we as a people will have to appeal to government to get back to them. It's not only this. Within the Ashanti region, there's a hospital that's completely ready. At least some parts are not, but where the OPD services and some what are ready. It's
the Kumewu facility?
Yeah, the Traditional Council called on
yes,
the
I remember that
and the promise
facility.
that it will work in a few months.
But going forward, what do you think? Should we scrap the office of the National Development Planning Commission? Because there's every evidence suggesting that over the past 15, 20 years, all what that office is supposed to be doing has been shelved. Under the Rawlings regime, we had a development plan. The Kufuor regime changed it twice. We had 2010, and then I think, is it Agenda 2010, and there was another one. And then under the Mahama regime, we had Agenda, is it 2040 or something like that. And then under Kufuor, that's the 40-year development plan. And then under the Akufo-Addo regime, it has been changed in one way or the other. And now we are hearing the rhetoric of Ghana Beyond Aid. So in all, it appears as if that office is not taking hold of Ghana's development agenda, where every government that comes to power will be bound by a long-term national plan which will see our resources effectively utilized.
Thank you very much. Look, let me start from the Bible. There's a scripture that says that for lack of a vision, my people perish.
Knowledge. For lack of knowledge.
Knowledge of
my
vision,
people perish.
my people perish. I want to paraphrase it like lack of a vision. The people will not develop, will perish. What is the agenda of Ghana? If you take economic history, there is no single nation in the world that has not picked up its development guided by a dream, a vision. And this dream or vision is presented in the form of a development plan. No single one. Ghana today, we are basking in past glories. And two major dreams or documents that has put us to a level is the Xyz Development Plan. That put the foundation of education, health, infrastructure. The next one that gave us a major leap was the 7-year development plan of Kwame Nkrumah. And since then, we have not had a document with consensus that everybody will agree to it and will run with it.
And at what stage do you assume that everybody has agreed to it? Because I have had the privilege to attend many of these workshops, either at Adan, or we go to Aqua Safari, or we go to, there's a hotel in Kumasi, yes. I don't want to mention the name, which is another popular facility where you see government officials going for the so-called workshops. And you see members of parliament from both sides, you see civil society organizations represented, you see technocrats represented. Sometimes they even bring foreign partners to share experiences. We spend resources, we pay for hotel bills, and these are expensive hotels. And at that platform, when we are all walking away, there is what they call a white paper or a blueprint and so on, which moves on. This is what we have always wasted. I have Nana Obiri-Buahini on the line. He's a deputy general secretary of the NPP. Nana, good morning again.
Good morning, my brother.
Nana, how's everything?
Oh, well, by grace.
Okay. Nana, this morning I will spend time with you on two issues of national interest. First of all, the one we shall talk about now is related to the office where you also operate. I'm talking about law. Xyz Morning has been given a pat on the back. There's no doubt about his achievement. But now it is emerging that he may not find it easy before the appointment committee, because some are saying that he doesn't have the balls, he's too young, he doesn't have the clout. Others are saying that he has some interest in the Japa deal, which was abandoned because of the perception that it was laden with corruption. For you, when you hear these rhetorics, for example, the minority leader in parliament says that Xyz Morning just cannot, it doesn't have that might to tackle issues about corruption and may end up being a poodle of the president. Your reaction?
Oh, well, I beg to differ. I beg to differ in the sense that Xyz Morning has been a practitioner for almost about 17 years. And to that extent, he's eligible to be called to the Court of Appeal as a Court of Appeal judge. He's eligible to be a Supreme Court judge. Now, once he qualifies to hold that position, the Court of Appeal, he's also qualified enough to be the special prosecutor. As to whether he has the balls or not, I can vouch that he's capable and competent. He has the balls. He's capable. He's competent. He's good to handle that position. So, for me, but when you raise the issue of Japan, I think that his name was not mentioned. The law firms which were mentioned have been legal firms or lawyers who represented various groups in the Japan. I did not hear his. But certainly, that one will not be a disqualification clause. So I am maximum conviction that he can handle the position.
Okay, Mr. Let me put it this way, Lawyer Obiri-Buahini, I want to quote a well-known Ghanaian who is very respected for what he has also done in this country over the years. His name is Bright Simmons. I'm sure you've heard of M Pedigree before. You've heard of Imani Africa. Now, this is what he tweeted. And I want to read his tweet because we know he's also an anti-graft campaigner. He says the office of the special prosecutor requires 250 people and an annual budget of $40 million. This is a big deal. If government of Ghana can no longer countenance having a fiercely independent office of the special prosecutor capable of taking the government officials, it should just save it. But that's just the teaser. The actual allegation here, as I have captured in this post, is what he refers to as the relationship between Xyz Morning and Gabi Osare Ochre-Darko. When I want to read, it says, Mr. Ejabeng is a fine lawyer, but if he wants to be the special prosecutor as reported, then he must commit to recuse himself from all Ejapa matters, given his close links to White and Case and ALA, run by Ejapa supporter, Mr. Asare Ochre-Darko, else CSOs will oppose his appointment. What do you make of this tweet by Brad Simmons?
Oh, once again, I beg to differ. You see, the role he played, or is alleged to have played in the Ejapa deal, what exactly was the role? He didn't play the role on the violation of his own, or he played that role as a professional practitioner or he played that role as a friend of a party. I mean, we need to make that distinction very well. We need not to bring all these issues together and then draw a conclusion. How? Under what circumstances? And what role did he play? And under what circumstances? Did he do that on the frolic of his own, or as a professional lawyer, or as a friend of one of the parties? So many questions. And to that extent, it will be unfair for us to jump to the conclusion that he is incapable of doing it. I agree. I mean, right may have some reservations. Yes, he may have some reservations. He is entitled to his views. He has some reservations. But let's look at the general picture, generally, considering the reservations of right, and considering the role he played, and considering how he has distinguished himself as a successful practitioner, well-esteemed practitioner. Can he perform that function of a special prosecutor? The answer is yes.
Okay, so that's a strong landing for Nana Obri-Boahene. But now let's walk to something briefly. There's this concern about projects that are complete and ready for use that never see the light of day because of political interest. The Sangaremi project just came up for discussion, and I'm sure you are aware of several others. Maybe your opponents have made reference to that Akufo-Addo is accused of deliberately deciding to go on to complete phase 2 before putting it to use, or refusing to use state resources on priority basis to stock in terms of the other resources, i.e. furniture or any other thing, to fast track the use. How do you feel when people lay such assaults on your government for such allegations?
This is once again unfortunate, unacceptable, and untenable. Unfortunate, unacceptable, and untenable. Let's consider the Sangaremi project. At the time the New Patriotic Party came to power in 2017, there were more things to be answered. What was the contractual? How many units were they supposed to construct? How many units did they construct? How did the reduction come about? Who authorized the reduction? Was there parliamentary approval? A whole lot of questions, multi-billion questions. Now you need to unravel all these questions before you can put to use the Sangaremi housing project. So people are talking about not only Sangaremi, the Asokore, the Asokore housing project. President Kofo started it. 2008 President MPP left office. 2009, 2010, 2011, up to the time that NDC was leaving office. Why didn't they also make good use of the Asokore? The Boteman project. It looks like sometimes you have our colleagues on the other side of the political divide formulating stories, manufacturing stories. With due respect, if I cock and pull stories, and then trying to hoodwink Ghanaians into believing that, they have been thinking of this country, Ghana, as for MPP, people should, let's not restrict ourselves to only the Sangaremi.
Okay,
let's
so
expand the scope.
Nana Obri-Boahene. I think acknowledged.
Hold on. Wait. Suhun overhead. This country that go for left in 2008. It was in 2020 that Nana Akufo-Addo for me 12 years. I mean, look, but I believe that as a nation, let's revisit all these issues, devoid of partisan politics.
Okay.
And find a way forward for the country, Ghana.
Okay, Nana, I think that's the point. Hold it. Nana, can I come in at the stage? Now, so going forward, for example, I know we have a select committee of parliament, and you realize that between 2017 2020, you saw one of the members of the select committee who became a minister for works and housing. Now, I am not suggesting that Atachian should be put on the spot because that project has not been used. But what I'm driving at is that we have institutions of state which have mandates, and those mandates must be seen in continuum. And so in this case, when even there is a change in any regime, the subject about suspicions or who reviewed the project cost and so on should not be the basis for a completed project to be allowed to rot, or there are legal ramifications. You are a lawyer. Can you educate us?
Yes, there are. Sometimes there are legal ramifications. You need to take a look at the contract, the contractual sum, the terms of the contract, the variations, the modifications. When you have a lot of question marks, you need to unravel all these things.
Then it suggests that Parliament's oversight responsibility is lost, because before any loan is approved, the presumption is that all these things would have been scrutinized. And if it is scrutinized and it's foolproof and proper due diligence is done, there is no government which should take over that should be suspicious of an activity which involved all stakeholders.
Perfect. Now let's take that Saglami housing project. It received parliamentary approval. But somewhere along the line, it turned out that there were some modifications without parliamentary approval. This matter came before the UPO, the special prosecutor. I mean, some of us are of the maximum conviction that some people might have been arraigned before court, as you are talking now. But the opposite is what that was. Now, you tell the some of the agreements entered into which have received parliamentary approval, and yet there are lots of question marks. So all these things don't augur well for us as a nation.
Okay.
They don't augur well for all of us as a nation, be it MPP in power or the NDC in power. Sometimes I weep for this country, honestly speaking. Sometimes I weep for this country. When I heard about Anza Ayariga, the allegation that was inciting people to go and occupy the Saglami housing project, I asked myself, but they have not completed the project.
But I know that the first phase is completed, and I'm sure you are aware of that.
I am perfectly aware that they have not completed the whole thing.
But why would you support any thinking that you want to finish the phase 2 when the phase 1 is ready for use? Why would anybody assume that?
How do you go and then how do you allow people to occupy the project?
And does it make sense? And let me use this word for the purpose of this conversation. For a project that you and I, our mothers, you know, your mother is poor, my mother is poor, who need housing, and the facility is ready for use, and somebody out of comfort is saying, I want to finish it entirely and make it available for use. If it were your money, and I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm using you as any ordinary decision maker. If it was your money, is that how you would allow it to be used?
That's it. But if it was my money or your money, will you change the modifications of Saglami without parliamentary approval? People are not agitating for the wrongdoers to be brought to book. We learned that somewhere along the line, some group of people changed the modification. They changed the quantum of money involved. They changed the dimension. But the wrongdoers have not been brought to book. We are interested in the occupation. What about the wrongdoers? Certainly, in all sincerity, sometimes I feel quite uncomfortable when these issues are going on.
Does it not suggest a wild goose chase? You remember when President Akufo-Addo assumed office, there was this conversation about bloated road projects. I am privy to a video of his visit to the Volta region then, when he was using the Eastern Corridor Road, and the Roads and Highways Minister today, as we speak, because he has been renominated and approved, told the president that they did the investigation, the contractor on the project has done nothing wrong, and they have begged him to come to the project site, and that's where we are. So the presumption is that there could be suspicions, but when you realize that there's nothing, why wouldn't you just accept that guilt and let the facility get the benefit that we expect? And rather stop suspending the so-called trial that is at the bosom of the government of the day.
Sometimes it's not a question of suspension. Sometimes you realize that the contractors who are executing that contract, the government of Ghana owes them substantial amount of money, and government has not paid them. And therefore, the contractor will decide to abandon the project. We have a lot of projects elected all over. But once again, let's come back to the road sector. I'm also stumbled upon recommendations from the award of contracts, the cocoa rules. And my brother, when you get the opportunity to read some of these documents, then you ask, why are these contractors not being prosecuted in court? Why? What is happening? What is happening?
No, there's no time. Something is happening. I will leave the rest to your dining table while we also continue here.
Sometimes as Ghanaians, let's move away a little from the entrenched partisan stance. I'm not sure that we move this nation forward, irrespective of whoever is God. Whoever, whether you are an MPP or NDC, and you are unable to account for what you are supposed to account for, heads must go, so that this nation will move forward.
Nana, I think it's a very positive note, and a lot of people will be subscribing to the strong position you have.
I feel very uncomfortable when you take issues concerning this country as a whole, and we a lot of us are done this by our political stance, but we don't want to make a serious and informed discussion.
Nano Bribuahini, you have excited me this morning.
It's a pleasure talking to you, my good brother.
And I pay a paper for being a DY. So open wapa.
Yeah, but it's very painful. Look, are you with me?
I am with you, Nana.
This morning, I moved from Sunyani to Kumasi to attend the court proceedings at the Court of Appeal Kumasi. Just after Tabre, we have to use the Akropong or 72 road for Kanche, Suansa, up to Api. I mean, the road is not good. The road is not good. And a lot of vehicles are using that road. Why? Because the main Kumasi Bwakwa road is under construction. So
but I thought that project would have been completed last year, because I've used that road severally and the project was closing in on completion.
I've used the other side of the road. I feel quite uncomfortable. 50-something years after independence, the alternative road is not good.
Okay.
As a nation, sometimes let's try and bury our MPP, NDC, CPP, and then come together and find a solution for this country.
Nano Bribuahini, I think you've done so much, given us your time. We are also grateful.
That has been my position. I'm very much conscious of the future of this country. Very much conscious of the future of this country. Ironically, sometimes when you raise these issues, some of your own friends in your own party or the other political divide, they will take you, oh, Nano Bribuahini, and there he goes again. He talks too much. That's not the question of Nano Bribuahini being a talkative. It's a question of Nano Bribuahini is very much particular about the country Ghana.
Nana, I wish you were with us and all the time was for you, but unfortunately we have to end the conversation here.
I'm even at the court premises and I'm getting
I know you will win your case, so bye-bye for now. So I know Buahini has obviously spoken to the same issues we raised and sided with you on the way forward. We started off with him on Xyz Morning.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up on that. So I want us to listen to the former Deputy Attorney General. Penkpa is rubbishing claims that he doesn't have the balls. The man is young, doesn't have the clout, because some have suggested that, look, the shoes Martin Amidou left is so huge that you don't take somebody who is a walkover to sit in that chair. Penkpa disagrees with people on that. It's about 5 to 7 minutes interview. Let's listen to him, and then I'll spend the rest of the time with Gilbert in the studio.
I can tell you for sure is that to the extent of my knowledge of who he is, he will be able to do the duty diligently and with distinction. And I suspect that at the end, he's going to be a symbol that will vindicate the position that the youth, when given an opportunity, can perform. Because at 42, with that enormous experience that he's had in private practice and as a lecturer and a consultant, a business consultant for that matter, I suspect that he's cut out to succeed in that position. And I have no doubt in my mind at all that he will excel. I have heard a lot of commentary being run left, right, and center, but I have not heard a single person so far who has come out to question his academic credibility or credentials or his intellectual capacity or professional capacity. Not one person has so far questioned that. And that tells you who he is actually. When every member of society is unable to question your academic and intellectual capability and capacity, it tells you that you are a standout person and you are going to succeed. So I know that Xyz Morning will succeed, one, because he's one capable of succeeding, and two, because of his profile, a very rich profile. At the young age of 42, he's achieved tremendous success in various facets of life. So I indeed believe that he will succeed. There is no experience for sale at the market square. Experience is acquired through the work process and your compliance with work ethics and etc. So looking at who he is, and as I have indicated to you, mind you, he's 42, but he's been a lecturer for the past 13 years or so, or 14. He's been lecturing at a law faculty. So even people he's lectured would have been lecturers by now. And even though he's 42, in real life situation and the experience he's gone through and what he's been through, in fact, he's carrying an 80-year-old brain. You understand what I'm talking about? By way of academics and by way of professional qualification and practice, he's carrying an 80-year-old brain, even though in him is just 42. Okay. So I can assure you that it's rather than expressing some level of pessimism and cynicism, I think that he is rather going to be a vindication of the youth. You see, that's what I said earlier. And I'm saying so because, as I indicated, the history surrounding the man is rich. You know, his expertise is in criminal law. That's one thing you have to take notice of. And he's done a lot of high-profile cases defending persons before the superior courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. He's gone through the mill in very high-profile cases. But you see, if we are in Ghana today commending one of our own, Anas, Arimiao Anas, as one person that has helped us to fight corruption in Ghana, and one person who is fearless, all of us point to Anas. If we are doing so, mind you, Anas in his practice had a lawyer. And such a person as Anas will not go for any lawyer. Indeed, he will go for a person who believes in the principles that he believes in. And I believe that that is the reason why Anas went in for Xyz Morning as his lawyer in the course of his practice and in carrying out his mandate as an investigative journalist. So I have no doubt in my mind that having worked with people like Anas as lawyer for him and the high-profile cases he's done, and mind you, he's also lecturing criminal law. So basically, I can tell you that rather than what you have said, it is the opposite. People saying that he doesn't have the requisite experience. I find it the opposite, because he's a lecturer of criminal law and he practices that in court through the superior courts of judicature. He's worked for Tiger Eye as lawyer and all that. And I can tell you that with that level of experience, he will be able to succeed in that office. Because mind you, that office is specifically one that is meant for criminal prosecutions of corruption and corruption-related offenses as mandated by Act 959, right? So clearly, his professional area is fit with what he has been appointed to do. And you see, for me, it goes beyond just academics, as you said, I agree. But you also look at the person's demeanor. If you look at Xyz Morning and his demeanor and conduct, you will know that he is capable of doing this job. I am not surprised at all that he's been nominated by the Attorney General for consideration by the President and submission to Parliament for vetting. I'm not surprised at all, because again, looking at the person in the office of Attorney General today, I mean, he got there on merit. Godfrey Yeboadame, strictly on merit. Very intelligent young man. He was deputy with myself, and he got the opportunity, and His Excellency the President elevated him. So he will not go for anything less than quality. Because as somebody described him the other time, somebody said that the Attorney General designate at the time was a 42-year-old but carrying the brain of a 70-year-old lawyer. And that is what I just repeated this afternoon, that the Office of Special Prosecutor, even though the nominee is just 42, his brain, for me, is like a 70, 80-year-old lawyer.
There have been a video circulating, I don't know whether you've gotten opportunity to watch them, talking about the fact that a member from your own party is raising issues that he, for the past years, he starts to just defend criminals.
Let me tell you something. When an armed robber shoots at people, injures them and kills some, and he himself is shot and injured, when he's sent to hospital, doesn't a doctor treat him? Do they allow him to die? So a doctor who treats a wounded armed robber is a bad man? No. No. If you are a practitioner and a suspected criminal, mind you, those who come to hire your services are not convicts. They are suspected criminals, or suspects for that matter. And if they have been charged, they become accused persons. And remember the constitutional injunction of presumption of innocence. Okay? So a man is presumed to be innocent until he himself has pleaded guilty or the court has found him guilty. So when clients come, they will narrate their story and you will find the defenses. So you cannot say that, get out of my office, you are a criminal, I don't want to see you. We have been trained as lawyers to defend people. So when somebody comes, he narrates his story and you will then be able to defend. And mind you again, there are some people who specialize in defending civil cases. Others specialize in defending criminal matters. You know, so they, I mean, if you say anything like describing a person in those unpalatable words and adjectives, you have to go back to the Constitution and first rubbish the Constitution before you can rubbish any other thing, because the Constitution itself says that whoever is arrested and accused of an offense is presumed to be innocent until he himself says, I am guilty, or the court finds the person guilty. So to say that he is defending criminals is neither here nor there. He's carrying out his duty as a professional lawyer to the best of his ability in that circumstance. So whatever tape you have spoken about, I haven't seen it. But the person may have. I haven't seen it, as I said. And I know I have stated time and again that Kennedy is one person everybody knows. He speaks his mind. And maybe he spoke his mind. And if he listens to Kisi Ajabe and hears him out, he will also be able to maybe have a revised position on that. I know that the Attorney General did not just rush to the market to start fishing for a lawyer to fix into that position, but due diligence was conducted to ensure that whoever is put there is able to carry the mandate through. Because remember, there is a reason for which we promulgated Act 959, namely that it was meant for us as a country, right, to ensure that we fill in that lacuna created as a result of practice over time from 92, which in Article 88 of our Constitution gives all powers for prosecution in the state to the Attorney General. But because of the fact that governance and party affiliation and all that over the period, think tanks and government experts have all come to the conclusion that Attorney General in the past have not been ready to prosecute their own.
So you've heard the argument. It will go on. There will be a lot of excitement and public interest in how he will fare before the Public Accounts Committee. This is a text message from Ni Taki Welbeck. It says that, hope it's well with the family and everybody watching us. Unfortunate that state projects are abandoned just because of our cool mentality, pure pettiness, self-centeredness, parochial interest and vindictiveness. Else, those projects could have continued whilst the investigation is pursued concurrently. Like our school old states, others have labored and we share their glory. Ours is to do exploits and add to their gain. Those who come after will take up our story. May it be worthy of singing again. And I believe in our government's place citizens' interest as paramount. No project shall be abandoned to adversely impact on the already scarce resources. Others have labored and we share their glory. It's very strong line in Adesado College School Ode. But you listen to Obribu Ahini, you listen to Penkpa. Obribu Ahini, two issues, but let's walk into Penkpa now.
Now, when you look at and then the appointment of a special prosecutor. Look, in the architecture for infrastructure for fighting corruption, it is one of the good things of this government to have that office. But the authority and the autonomy of that institution to fight corruption is what they have not shown commitment for the nation to gain from the setting up of that.
What does that mean?
That means that that office is supposed to help the executive fight corruption, which will reduce cost of wastage of resources, and that will get everybody on board so that the little resources will benefit from them. But we have seen the attitude of government to the practice of the office, and we saw what happened to Martin Amidu. Look, Martin Amidu was not a mean lawyer in this country. And we all know he's not any cheap or easy person to walk-over person. And remember, when they appointed Martin Amidu, everybody jubilated in this country. And we're happy that this is the right man for this job. There's no single person who would debate that Martin Amidu
what could have been the reason? Because
the reason is because
civil society, for example, was very happy.
Yeah, the reason
they ended up very sad.
Yes, the reason is that even in his own party, when he was even serving government, he took people on internally within his people. And if you belong to a divide, that you can put principles in place and take your people on, then it means that if you get people outside your divide, you apply the same principle.
Isn't it fair if Penkpa or Obribu Ahini says that maybe Ejabing has not been given the opportunity, so
I'm busy on the Matinamidu. So look at the kind of person he is and the clout he has, and then he has demonstrated fighting corruption and was put there. And look, the age gap between him and the appointee was that close, and that means they could relate as peers and deal with this matter. But even that, he didn't survive. Not because he was not committed to it, was because corruption fought him out of the
system
office.
Fought him.
It's corruption.
So what
when you're fighting corruption,
what makes it difficult, or what is likely to make it difficult for you pessimists about Kisi Ejabing?
Let me start on something somebody would think it's not necessary. His age difference between his age. He's a young person, and that does not run young people down that they can run office. Abu Jinapo is just here, and I think he's started very well, to be honest.
His brother is also doing well.
Doing very well. John is also doing very well. So it's not about the age. But the fact is this, that he will begin to see Nanado as his father or grandfather. And definitely when he has to look into his eyes and tell him straight like Martin would tell him, I'm not sure he's able to do that. He will be very diplomatic about it, because in Africa, we respect age. There's nothing you can do.
What about the suspicion? Because when we spoke to Obribuahine, he said if there cannot be any evidence to suggest that he was neck deep involved in a Japa, then there's no cause to worry. But there's this cause to worry, because I've seen a publication by some media portals. One was even flying on social media by David Tamaklo's WhatsApp News, which makes reference to the interest of Gabi Asare Ochredakun. Why will Gabi's name associated with Kisi Ejabing be an issue of concern about the office he's going to occupy, for example?
When it comes to issue cronies, friends, sometimes that's why I was using Matamidu, that who can fight even an in-house fight, definitely can take it out. So and if Gabi is his friend and they're that close, then obviously he's not able to fight it because of that kind of bond, that cronyism and friendship that they have.
Okay, so
to me,
5 minutes more.
They should have gone by bringing a pool of people and allow civil society. And
what is the significance of this suggestion that, based on the historical antecedents, and I understand you, we should rather have seen the effort to elect or select the next special prosecutor should go through consensus building. Why are you moving towards this tangent?
You see, if it goes through consensus building, whoever gets it knows that the entire Ghanaian populace are behind him and they put him there. In that case, he's able to stand and face power and authority and speak to it in the face and fight the corruption.
Let me do some messages.
They just pick you and put you there. Look, the point is that it's possible they just took Martin, they just intentionally decided to take Martin, frustrate him out, and put somebody they can manipulate, possibly use the person to target only enemies, in quotes, but in-house, he's not able to do anything. And I fight for corruption.
Unfortunately, we don't have time. This is an interesting comment, because if you look at the protest Martin Amidu put out by way of his epistles, he put in there that he was being forced to investigate a particular case.
The Airbus.
The Airbus thing.
Yes.
And so it may sync with the conversation you are raising. But I have a few text messages I want to read here. This one says, and it's from Mukaila. Oh, what is it? It looks like Makwa Presi Baby. Whenever I want to click on the message, it goes to select. So what we'll be doing is I'm trying to read a few text messages. This one, for example, I'm there. This one is from Zachariah. It says, Sam Jonah hit the nail right on the head. Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia leadership have made Ghana bankrupt. I'll make the messages quite short if they are too long. Special prosecutor, we complained about Martin Amidu being too old, and yet Kisi Ejabing is too young. And that's an interesting comment, because NDC went to court that Martin Amidu has gone past the retired message. Oh, my dear countrymen, when are we truly going to know exactly what we want? This one says, Good morning, TV XYZ, for your good job. Keep it up. It didn't come with a name. Please add your names and where you send your messages from. Asedi Nketia on the Parliamentary Service Board is nothing but just to create confusion in Parliament, because Asedi Nketia is well known to be except propagating lies and hypocrisy. I don't think it's fair about Asedi Nketia, because that's not how I know him, as somebody who is a hypocrite. Asedi Nketia on Parliament. Okay, the same text message is what I went to. This one is from Bosheba. It says Ghanaians should expect good things from President Akufo-Addo in his second term because he is good. This text message, I think I read this one from Koresco. This one is from Inshraba. It says the $25 million investment for the Black Stars is just waste of taxpayers' money. Let's use the money to invest in our local league, because there is no sponsorship in our league. We have always invested in the Black Stars, but nothing to show up. Interesting topic for conversation. Now, taking a cursory look at the current state of the Sanglemi housing project, one can clearly say that NDC did a shoddy work. The money for the project was over-bloated and was not even completed. It comes back to this issue about project abandoned, and if we should even scrap a long-term development plan. 1 second, use it to wrap up.
Yeah, I even want to come to the development plan.
We have 1 minute to wrap up, unfortunately.
You see, the point is this, that I started by talking about the fact that Gajisberg and the Kwame Nkrumah 7-year development plan, and that's what has brought us to where we are today. Look, from that time, we have never sat as a people by consensus to agree on a document legally binding on everybody to execute as a long-term plan. All the other ones are just, we rush to the IMF, we rush to the World Bank because there's a facility. We come and fashion a document just to assess that facility.
Okay.
And just to assess that facility. So at the time, that's why we have the Vision 2020 and those ones. They're just opportunities to assess some facilities from the Bretton Woods institutions. These were not development plans.
Okay.
Now we come to Professor Mose, who decided to have one. Look, they invited all the stakeholders, including the academia. But the New Patriotic Party 40-year development plan.
Yes, Gilbert, let me do this to you. Keep the rest. Let's go and debate outside. We don't have much time. Kwabenya sent this.
But let me make this final comment on that one. Do you know that the 40-year development plan that we put together as a document that was complete by 2016 that we can launch and take off, they have taken every single document out of the National Planning Authority and they have replaced it with another World Bank facility that will get there. And all they have done and spent on it is a waste.
Kwabenya, this one says, we vote for leadership to power to solve problems and put things to order. But here in Ghana, leadership has become a liability and a problem for us. He makes reference to legacies led by Kufuor and moves on and on and on and on. And says, regards to Mahdi Jibril. Mahdi Jibril, good morning. And the Kwabenya, this from Eben. Eben, I'm sure I did something around your text message. Thank you. There's no time. On behalf of Abena and all the production team, I say thank you for watching us. We'll see you again tomorrow.